Hey everyone, it's Carson Tech here, back with another video, and in this video I'm going to be showing you the full process of installing a wired security camera system, and specifically I'm going to be installing the Reolink RLK16-800D8, which is a whole mouthful to say, but essentially what that breaks down to is that this system supports up to 16 security cameras. It comes with 8, and each of those security cameras support 8 megapixel video, and so that means that they each support 4K video in total. So this is a super powerful system, and for the price that you pay for this, there is basically nothing else that matches it in its quality and build. So essentially in this video I'll be covering the overall process of installing this system through toning out cables, patching in cables Ethernet wise. I'll also be showing you how to mount these cameras either outside, inside on a wall, and inside on the ceiling, and then overall just talking about the setup of this system, talking about the longevity of it because it's been actually installed for around a month now, and talking about whether or not this is a worthwhile system to pick up. And I do have to say up front here that Reolink in the past has sent me out systems for free, but they did not send this to me. The client that I'm installing this for actually paid for it, so they did not provide this for me. But with that said, let's get right into the unboxing. As you could see, that was quite the unboxing there. There was a lot inside of the box, but now that I've got everything out, let me give you a close-up view of everything that's inside. So if you are somebody who is buying this kit and doesn't already have wiring run throughout their house or business, then Reolink has you covered, as it does include 8 different 60 feet Cat 5 cables. They are already pre-terminated, so if you don't have any experience with terminating Ethernet cables, then you don't have to worry about that. However, if you do have to go and take off an end and splice on an end, it also comes included with 8 Ethernet ends, RJ45s, that you can go and terminate onto the ends if you have to do so. Also, if you are taking those off and putting on your own ends, it also comes with 8 of these weatherproofing ends which screw into the Ethernet side on the cameras themselves, which is really cool, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. You've also got your operation instructions. You've also got 8 Reolink 24-hour video surveillance stickers, as well as 8 of these mounting guides. Fun fact, each of these are stickers, so you can go and stick this onto the surface that you are mounting onto. It's not a super strong sticker, but it's strong enough that you can go and stick that up and then drill your holes, then peel it back off. You've also got the mounting hardware, and then you've also got these screws here, which is actually for expanding the hard drive capacity within the NVR. Out of the box, this comes with 3 terabytes of storage. It is a Seagate drive. I opened it up already and took a look. It's got a 2-year warranty on that drive, but you can go and upgrade each of the drive slots. There are 2 within this unit. Each of those can be upgraded to 6 terabytes each, so in total you could have 12 terabytes of storage within this unit, which is pretty great, especially for a system that is recording in 4K with 8 or more cameras. You're definitely going to want to look into expanding the storage within this. You've also got an included short Ethernet cable, which is meant for connecting this NVR to your network. You've got a included 6-foot HDMI cable, a mouse for adjusting things on the interface, and then also lastly this power supply. But then you get the NVR unit itself. This thing is pretty big. It's a pretty big beast. You've got some controls here on the front, which allows you to interact with the interface, as well as a USB port on the front for connecting your mouse. Moving on to the back of the unit, here's where you will see your power in, your power switch, audio, USB input on the rear, HDMI output, VGA output, so depending on your monitor, you've got both, your LAN input, and then 16 PoE supported Ethernet ports for all of your cameras. In the kit, it comes with only 8, but you can expand this system up to 16 total cameras in the future, up to 4K resolution for each of those. Lastly, in the box, you get some of the most important pieces of this total system, which is the security cameras themselves. These are the D800 series cameras. Reolink also sells a B800 version of this, the B standing for bullet and the D standing for dome. So if you would prefer to have bullet cameras rather than these dome cameras. You can pick up the system. It's the same exact price, but just has the different cameras. On the ends of the cables that come out of the camera, you've got your RJ45 Ethernet in, and here is where I was talking about that screw-in connector. So you can go and screw those connectors right into the end of here. You've got a reset button as well as a typical DC barrel plug in for power. So you don't have to use this, of course, but that's mostly there for if somebody were to purchase this camera without an NVR and you wanted to just power it off of a regular outlet without PoE. This is a fully adjustable camera, so no matter where you're mounting this, whether it be on the wall or on the ceiling or just sitting it down, you can move this camera to whatever position you may need. And now that we've gotten through the unboxing, let me just provide you with a quick walkthrough of what is involved in setting up the system. After powering on the NVR, and on a side note, I do want to mention that you do not have to have any of your cameras plugged into the NVR in order to get this set up, but if you would like to verify that they all work before installing them into their final permanent locations, now would be the perfect time for that. But make sure that you've got the NVR plugged into a display as well, whether that be an old computer monitor or a TV, and this is really the only time that you need it to be plugged into a monitor when using this system, because after this, you can go and use the Reolink app if you would prefer, but it will have to be connected to a network in order for that to happen. The first time that you power up the NVR will bring up a setup wizard, which begins by having you put in some general information, such as a password for your admin account, giving your NVR a name, setting the time zone, monitor resolution, and essentially all the things you would be expected to fill in when setting up a typical new device. Then you'll need to format the internal drive or drives if you've upgraded to more space. Following that, you'll have the option to configure network information if you wish to connect the NVR to your network or even to the internet. I will mention though that connecting the NVR to a network or to the internet is not necessary even for setup, which is what I did here when I set up this NVR. But like I mentioned, if you would like to use the Reolink app or client app, it will at least need to be connected to a network, and whether or not that network is connected to the internet is ultimately up to you. It is not required. And then a bunch of other random setup stuff that isn't necessary in order to complete the setup, other than a sorta important thing, which is setting the time of your NVR. However, other than that, your NVR is now fully set up with all of the previous settings adjustable later within settings. If you'd like to adjust things such as the name or literally anything else from within this software, you just go to your menu, and in here is where you're able to adjust everything. In here, under the display tab, is where you can actually change the camera name and its output settings for any one camera, or you can pass the settings to every single one of the channels, which is pretty convenient depending on if you need something super granular on one camera or you want to do something on everything. The first thing that I did was I removed the Reolink watermark, so I disabled that from all the channels immediately. But other than that, you've got a bunch of other things, your recording options. You can search for footage on the hard drive. I would suggest going and connecting this to the network so then you can use the Reolink app. It is so much easier to go and review footage from there. But if you want to go and search for a specific time slot, you can do that. You've got all your network settings, you've got some alarm settings, device settings. This is mostly just for the hard drive. And finally, the system general settings. And then you can go and shut down the NVR. But overall, this software is pretty basic. It's not the most advanced NVR software ever, but it's also not super difficult to use. You can get different views of your camera depending on what you would prefer, but the cool thing is that you can view all 8 of the cameras that come with this kit out of the box all simultaneously, so you don't have to worry about any buffering or anything like that. You can view them all at once, or if you've got all 16 of your cameras plugged in, you could view all 16 at once as well. Now that the NVR is all set up and I know that all of the cameras are working, I'm now going to be moving into the installation portion of this video. And I will note that it is a little bit long, so if you want to go and scrub around and find the portions of the video that you find most beneficial, if you haven't noticed already, right below on the play bar, you can go and move your mouse or move your finger over it and click to different sections of this video. So feel free to skip around to the portions that you find most valuable. In this installation portion of the video, I will be covering toning out Ethernet cables, terminating the cables, installing cameras inside, installing them outside,
connecting them into the Reolink app, and a little bit more. And then after that, I'll be getting into my opinions about my overall thoughts on the system. I will say that if you aren't installing these into an existing location where you need to tone out Ethernet cables and you want to know how to install Ethernet cables yourself for the first time, maybe a little bit more beneficial to go and check out my other Reolink installation video where I talk more about running Ethernet cables in a new setup. So I would suggest watching that first and then hopping back to this video to find out the rest of the installation process for this, or just to hear my thoughts about the system at the end. But with that said, let's get into toning out those Ethernet cables.
If you are new to all things Ethernet and you happen to be installing in a building or house that already has existing Ethernet wiring throughout it that you want to go and connect your cameras into and you don't know where they lead back to, you can go and get something called an Ethernet toner. And what this does is it will allow you to plug this toning device into the end of an Ethernet cable. You will have to go and put an end onto it, but you can plug this into an Ethernet cable, and then with this device right here, when you get near the cable in question, it'll put out a tone. So just bringing the thing up next to it doesn't make a sound unless it is that toning cable. If you're curious which specific toner I'm using here, I'll be honest, it is the cheapest toning tool that you can purchase on Amazon, and this is specifically from Elegant. I've been using it for 3 years now, and I have never had an issue with it. And in fact, I have not had to change the batteries out of these in the entire time that I've had it. So it does the toning as well as it will check continuity. So it will also check how good your Ethernet terminating skills are and tell you if you have an issue in your wiring. But overall, it's great. However, if you are going and trying to find, say, a wire in a wall, then you will have to go and pick up something different. So I also have this toning tool here that is from Tack Life, and this one specifically can be used to trace wires underground or in walls. This one looks pretty similar to the other one, however it's got this long antenna on it, and that is meant to really help you go and find wires within a wall. Specifically how I went and toned with this, if you need to, is I took a Ethernet cable, cut off one of the ends, and then brought out one of the wires. So I've just got the orange wire, it could be any of the wires, and then you just go and attach the red end to one of those wires and then the black end to a ground within the building. So that'll help you go and tone out this specific area, and it works pretty well. So I actually do not know where this cable leads back to, but I do know that in the server room there are a couple of ports still left open that could possibly lead back to there. So what I got to do is just plug the toning device into an Ethernet jack that I know is one that leads to a camera lead, or I could go and put the Ethernet jack on the end of here, which would be easier, and then go and put the toner on here and then tone out which of those ports leads back to here. But nope, that is not one. Nope. Yep, that is it. So you will know that you got the cable when you hear that noise. If you're going to be mounting one of these dome cameras or even the bullet cameras outdoors, I would highly recommend picking up one of Reolink's Junction boxes. This one is the D20, but they also sell a B20 for the bullet cameras. So this one specifically has the holes that are compatible with this, so you can mount it on like so. Inside the box, you get the Junction box itself, you get a mounting template, some mounting hardware, as well as the hardware that allows you to mount the plate on the bottom of the camera onto the Junction box. If your mounting position is going to be up high, I would recommend going and putting everything together pretty much down on the ground, so you're not fiddling with everything as you're up on the ladder. I promise you it'll be easier to do it down here than it will be up when you're on the ladder. You can move these little plastic covers around, so depending on if you want to go and mount this on a wall with the wire coming out that way or coming through the back hole, you can move these around to your specific mounting needs. For me, I'm going to be passing the cable through this middle part right here and then spiraling it all in here while it is mounted. So there you go. And then just like that, you can put everything back together. Screw the camera onto the mount, like so.
And you are all set. Your camera is now mounted, and this can go and now be spiraled into here and put together like so. It's really quite nice looking. This is able to be mounted on a wall or under a roof, or really however you want to mount it. The camera can move anywhere at once, but I would pay attention to the up marking on the top of the camera, because if you mess that up, then when you plug in your cameras, everything's going to be upside down, which is something you don't want. If you are mounting this on the wall, you will want to make sure that this is facing up, so then it prevents water from going into the camera body itself. But you don't really have to worry too much about water because these are IP66 water rated. So this, I'm going to go now and take outside and mount onto the wall. I will note that this is around $25 for this Junction box, so it is a little pricey. But if you want the peace of mind of knowing that no water will make its way into your camera while it's mounted outside, then this is about the best way to go. So to mount this, you're going to want to pass through your Ethernet cable, of course, through the Junction box. And then you're going to need to mount this onto your surface. In my case, I am mounting on steel. So this doesn't have any wood behind it, it's just got insulation. So I'm gonna need to use sheet metal screws, which I happen to have. And these are also pretty cool because they have self-tapping ends, so I don't have to worry about drilling any holes. And there you go, mine is on here pretty solid. This could be thrown at some really high winds and I wouldn't be worried whatsoever. Now you're gonna have to go and terminate the end of your Ethernet cable, which in order to do this, I first start by throwing on an Ethernet boot. Then you just gotta go and strip down the cable, leave yourself about 2 inches or more cut. Then you have to get to arranging your wires. In my case, I'm going to be going through the standard, which is called T568B, and that means you got to have white orange, orange, white green, blue, white blue, green, white brown, and then brown for the cables. So in order to do that, you just untwist all your wires. Then you got to go and straighten out your wires and put them in their order. I do it like this and kind of bend it back and forth until you've got a nice straight looking piece of cable here. And then at this point, if you don't have a pass-through connector, you will have to go and cut the cable close to the end of your actual cable. But in my case, I just have to go and cut off the end so it's flat. And then at this point, I can thread the cables in through the connector, push it in. Don't push it in too far, but just enough that the sheathing itself is beneath this crimping piece right here. Then you just pass your cable through your crimper, crimp down. That's what I mean by the pass-through. So it cuts off the ends for me. And there you go. You've got a successful, or hopefully successful, Ethernet end. In order to test its success, you'll need to go right on ahead and plug it into your continuity tester to verify that everything is functioning how it should and that everything worked. No matter how good you are at crimping Ethernet ends, sometimes you just happen to have an accident on one end, whether it be the tool or you yourself. Everything is all good. So now that everything's been all verified, it's now time to put the camera itself onto the box. Before tightening down your screws, you will want to verify that the rubber gasket along the outside of this rim is all good, but after that, then you can go and put everything together and you are all set. And there you have it. That is the camera installed. As I said before, you can really move this around anywhere you want, but I'm going to leave it pointing straight out so it can cover this area over here. But now that I have this one installed, let me go show you what it looks like on the inside. So on the NVR's side of things, all you really got to do is plug in the camera into the rear of the NVR, aka port 35, and then plug this end into the rear of the NVR. And then if all is good, channel 1 up here that currently shows video loss should power up and show a picture. Moment of truth, there we go. There is image. So now that that is on, you can go and either adjust based on what you see on this screen here, or you connect your NVR to the Reolink app, and then you can view on your mobile device what the cameras are seeing. So it makes it much easier to adjust the cameras in real time. Speaking of, if you would like to go and add your NVR into your mobile device, all you got to do is make sure your NVR is connected to a network that your phone is connected to, or you can connect it to a network that is connected to the internet. It works both ways, and once you've done that, you will get a screen that looks similar to this. Then all you're going to have to do is press the little plus button in the top right-hand corner, and it will bring up a camera from your phone camera that will allow you to go and scan the QR code on either the NVR itself, or you can go right-click the mouse on the NVR, go to your menu, go to System, go to System Information, and then right here, I am blurring it out, but there is a QR code here, as well as a detail number, which would allow you to go and add the device. So then, once the device has been scanned into your app, that's not it. You do have to go and enter the username and password. This is just an extra security measure, just so then somebody walking by and scanning the QR code can't add this into their own Reolink app. So this is why it's important to create a super secure password for the NVR, so then nobody else can really add this into their Reolink account. And then you are all set. You will see that you get all of the channels off of the NVR. Sadly, at this point in time, there's no easy way at all to disable the channels that you are not using. So you will see for all the channels you're not using video loss, which is a little bit annoying, but of course you can go and see the cameras that are most important to you, which are the ones that I have gone and already added. But I've got to say, looking at this stream, just wow, the quality out of these cameras is stunning. I won't talk too much more about that because I'll say more about that later, but there you have it. Now that you've seen me go and mount a camera inside the Reolink Junction box, as well as terminate an Ethernet cable, if you are wanting to install in a wall, you really got two different ways you could go about mounting it. You could use the included drywall anchors or buy your own and install the camera onto those, which would allow for a super flush mount. However, there is one big problem with that. If you ever plan to upgrade your cameras in the future, then you will be stuck with those holes in your wall pretty much forever until you go and patch them up, which is a little bit of a hassle. So in my case, what I'm choosing to do is put in what is called an old work single gang
bracket.
And what this allows you to do is cut out a rectangular hole in your wall inside the drywall where there aren't studs around. And then you just put this inside that hole. These little fins fold out like so, and they will hold the
bracket
in place. And then on top of that, I've got a blank receptacle plate, which I have drilled some holes into and mounted the Reolink plate onto. So then when this is up on the wall, they both can go together like so. And then you will have a very clean mounting solution that will allow you, even if you want to take down the cameras in the future, you could slap another blank plate on top of this and cover up the hole. I do want to mention, if you are installing this specific exact camera in your scenario, I would pay attention to where you put the two holes. I just screwed them in with some machine screws and then put a bolt on the back side. Pay attention to where you put that, because if you don't go and place those diagonally, then the plate just simply could not go onto here. So definitely pay attention to where you put those, so then you're able to put your faceplate on like you would wish. So now that you're watching me do this installation really quickly as I sped up the footage, if you are interested in mounting a camera onto a drywall ceiling, the same goes for that. You could go with this rectangular style plate. However, I did go and do a different type of mounting method. So if you're interested in seeing that, here is that now. Again, like I said, this is a similar process, but with a different box. So this one is a round ceiling box. It's also one of the old work style boxes with the tabs that fold out and pull it up onto the ceiling. And then I got myself a Carlon blank plate. This is solid plastic and it blends pretty well with the default plate that you get from Reolink. Once again, I went and mounted this onto the blank plate with 8/32 machine screws as well as lock bolts on the back. And then I went and drilled 2 more holes so then I can go and attach the plate into this mount when it's up in there. But overall, this one I think actually looks better than the rectangular one. So if you really wanted to, you could do this on the wall as well. I don't see why you couldn't. This one just screws on, and it honestly looks like it's something that came out of the factory. This just goes up there and it looks fantastic because it's circle like the camera is, and it looks great. This one, there isn't really a catch to it. You just mount it on, you drill your hole so you can pass your cables through, and you're all set. Now that the installation is complete, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, it's been a little over a month now since that installation, and I'm sure you're curious to know how the system is doing and if it is worth the money for the full 4K. With all 8 cameras installed, I found the system can record for just around 10 days before it starts loop recording over itself. And I will note that I did configure most of the indoor cameras to record all the time from 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. in order to conserve space, with between 1 a.m. and 7 a.m. only triggering recording if there is motion. The footage itself looks phenomenal and honestly blows me away that the footage captured is coming from a security camera. With the 8 megapixel sensors, you can digitally zoom way in and read text and faces from far away without the need of having a locked in zoom security camera. Because think about it, if you have a zoom security camera and it's locked zoomed in all the time, then you're missing a lot of details that are further outside of the camera's field of view. Whereas if you have a camera that you can digitally zoom into, then you can capture a lot more without the cutting out of video space. The daytime 4K footage looks great, as does the nighttime recording. With 3 cameras placed in the same gym space, it honestly looks like there are lights on in the building when reviewing footage from at night, but in reality it's pitch black. And the system claims to have 100 feet of night vision, and I do not doubt that one bit. It is just phenomenal in its night vision capabilities. And getting into some of the cool features about this Reolink system, with the cameras you can select different motion zones, so the camera only triggers its motion recording if motion is found in a specific area of the overall frame. Another cool feature is that if one camera detects motion, you can set it up so then all the rest of the cameras in your system trigger to record, or you can set just specific cameras other than the one that detected motion itself. So this is helpful if you want to capture something before an object or a person or something like that has actually maybe come around the edge of a building before the other cameras can actually detect that motion. Just so nobody is confused, I do want to say that the system still does record 24/7 while motion recording is enabled, but the system will cut out motion events for you to make it easy to view back when you are trying to look for a specific event rather than looking back at 24 hours of footage recorded. So I did want to mention that just so nobody is confused there. That motion detection works very well, but honestly almost works too well sometimes, and picks up even movement of a wrapper or something really random just being blown across the frame or something moving in the distance. So it is pretty minuscule, but if that type of motion detection does annoy you, Reolink does have an even newer model of this 800D8 system that is called the 820D8-A, which stands for AI, and basically that system is practically the same system with the exception that all the cameras are able to process the camera footage and distinguish between people and vehicles and just random motion. So it will actually let you know that a person has entered the frame rather than just saying it picked up on motion. I will say that system does cost $150 more than the 800D8 though, but if that is a distinguishing factor that you definitely want to be able to tell the difference between humans and random objects, then I would probably check out that system, as that's probably the system to go with. Each of the cameras do come with an included microphone, and I will say those microphones on the cameras are decent, but not exactly fantastic, but decent enough that if you need to pick out something someone is saying, as long as they're within 15 to 20 feet of the camera, I would say you are able to pick up what they're saying, but anything further than that, it generally does get kind of difficult to actually hear what they're saying. Sort of off topic, but something that I know everyone commonly wants to know, and I've seen in a lot of videos in the past, is if this system requires an internet connection to function. And the answer to that is that no, but there is a small exception, and I'll get to that later. But to start, if you only plan on viewing the camera footage from the NVR itself, then you do not need an internet connection to the system. Also, the Reolink app is still accessible. It can access the NVR system on your network, even if that network
is not connected to the internet. So the NVR does broadcast over a network even if there is no internet connection, which is great. And also the setup of this system does not require an internet connection. And a way that that would probably even work is if you connected an old router that's not connected to the internet and connected that to the NVR itself, because then you could go and wirelessly connect with your phone or tablet or computer really, and you could access that NVR without the need of being connected to the internet. The small exception to this though is if you plan on remotely accessing these cameras outside of your own network, then obviously the NVR will need to be connected to the internet in order to do that. But other than that though, the NVR in essence is in a state that you can just pretty much sit it and forget it and only really go back to it when you need it most. I personally am not really concerned about the system being connected to the internet due to the incredible amount of encryption that Reolink puts onto their systems. So I'm really not too concerned about this. As long as you set a strong password on your NVR, I would not be worried. And I've never noticed any traffic leaving the network or coming in from the NVR unless it is actively being accessed via the Reolink app. So once again, I would not be worried about that, but if that is something that you're concerned about, the system does not need to be connected to the internet to function. And speaking of that Reolink app, I think the app itself is one thing that separates Reolink from the rest of the pack. The Reolink app on mobile and Reolink client for computers are fantastic programs, and although the interface on the NVR itself appears to be a little dated, the Reolink app is different. You can do everything via the Reolink app that you can do via the NVR itself, but in a much prettier UI. Playback can be performed instantly with the ability to change between low resolution and full resolution, depending on if you're on a slow network or slow cellular connection. And there is so much to talk about in regards to the Reolink app, but for the sake of the time in this video, I will just have to end it off by saying I absolutely love the Reolink app, and I am nearly 100% certain that you will more than likely like it too. It's very intuitive to use and gives you nearly everything you can ask for, and it's really easy to use overall, and it's free. Overall, the RLK16-800D8 is a fantastic system that over the last month has already saved my client from paying for a medical bill for someone who was not necessarily using the facilities in a safe way, as well as some people who were deciding to snack on food out of the fridge that they weren't given permission to actually take. So in my opinion, I think this system is absolutely worth every penny you pay, whether you get this dome camera system, aka the D8, or if you get the B8 system, which is the one that comes with the bullet cameras. If you use the Reolink website, you can fully customize your system to include a mix of both camera types and even more. And once again, if you plan on purchasing a Reolink camera or some system, I would highly recommend using the discount code YTB5Carson to give yourself 5% off. Once again, I'm not getting anything from that link, but I did reach out to Reolink and ask if they could give you guys a discount through a discount code. So that is that. So make sure to use that if you're trying to purchase from their website for 5% off. That code only will be active for 3 months following the release of this video, so if you are considering getting a system from Reolink, I would make sure to do that sooner rather than later. And thanks to Reolink for actually offering that to my audience. You guys are great. But with that being said, that is pretty much it for this video. If you want to pick up the system yourself, I will be leaving links to purchase it from a couple different places down below. And also, if you liked this video, make sure to let me know by clicking the thumbs up button down below, as well as subscribing for future videos like this. And also, if you want to check out my last video, that should be right over there, and some random videos should be down there. If you have any questions at all, make sure to leave those down in the comments. I try to respond to everybody, but with that said, that is it for this one. Hope to see you in the next video. Peace.